Welcome into the Pursuit of Manliness podcast, where we are vigorously equipping men to pursue biblical manliness. My name is Jarrett Samuels. I'm the host of the Pursuit of Manliness podcast. Man, thanks for taking time and checking out today's show. On today's show, I'm going to give you 3 books that I recommend every man must have in his library. If you don't have a library as a man, it's time to start building one. If you have a son-in-law, a coworker, somebody in your life that needs to be resourced up, make sure you check out this podcast. I'm going to give you the 3 books that I believe have been incredibly instrumental in my life up to this point when it comes to biblical manliness. Guys, there's a ton of great books out there, and I would love for you to leave a comment below this podcast or wherever you're watching this and let me know some books that have been instrumental in your life to being a biblically equipped man of God. The second book that I recommend, this book was timely. If I read the first one begrudgingly, I read the second one in a very timely manner. God's timeliness is always perfect. I had heard this guy speak on a podcast about why men were losing men in the church. This was the same time where I was going through what I've shared, kind of this learning to fight, what it meant to fight and show up on a regular basis and be a man of God. And my tension was being a man of God felt more like becoming a Sunday school teacher. You know, it felt more, I was very closed-minded. I didn't know what that meant. And I've shared before, when I started the Pursuit of Manliness, I didn't know about all these other groups. And maybe they weren't as many then, I don't know, but I just didn't know them. And I thought, I want something that is a game changer for guys when it comes to changing the narrative of what it means to be a man of God. And we can have something that we can invite non-Christian men to and go, see, this is what it is, not that. And that's not knocking anyone, but this book, I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. Mansfield's Book of Manly Men. You've probably seen it. I got to be honest, when I heard him speak on a podcast, I bought it pretty much because of the cover. The cover looks like something you find in like an old, medicine cabinet or something. The guy's got a handlebar mustache on the front. It's very vintage looking. It feels like an old historic type of book. It's really, really equipping, to say the least. When I started Pursuit of Manliness, I did it anonymously for several reasons, but one of the reasons is because I felt insecure about starting the Pursuit of Manliness. I knew I was on a pursuit of being a man of God, but I had a fear of what other people would say, like, you're not, we get this idea. We get this idea that being a man of God is this manly man is a guy that changes his own oil. He can, put a roof on. And if you can do these things, great. He cuts trees down with an axe. He wears flannel. He carries his wife over his shoulder on the way to bed to make love to her. His kids sit at his feet as he drinks whiskey and smokes a pipe and tells stories of yesteryear and, all the deer on the wall that he has killed through the years. Hey, that's great if that's you. And I would love to meet you if that is you. But for me, I didn't feel like that. I knew I wanted to be a man of God. I knew I wanted to be better equipped and resourced, but I knew I was starting essentially at rock bottom. This book changes the narrative when it comes to this idea of being a manly man. He talks about noble manhood and really does an incredible job of unpacking it. Uses a lot of illustrations from history. Roosevelt we're all a fan of. Churchill we're a fan of, but he's going to use some illustrations, stories at least for me, that I had no idea. It gives you a vision of being a growing, responsible man. Responsible man. His 4 maxims, if you miss being responsible from those 4 maxims, you've missed something, okay? He's got a ton of resources in the back, books, movies, quotes. It's just very instrumental in the birth of Pursuit of Manliness of what it is. This book has a very vintage feel. I love old vintage stuff. We have vintage furniture. I love old 1920s, 1940s radio and music, and so that's why my logo has a little bit of that vintage feel. What an honor it was to have Stephen Mansfield on the podcast. He's been incredibly generous to me, sharing content, speaking highly of me on social media, making time to be on a podcast. I have only read one other book of his that I can think, 2 other books, Band of Brothers, which is really short, easy read, and God and Guinness, which is the story of, is it Arthur Guinness? I can't remember right now, but over in Ireland, the Guinness beer that's incredibly popular, and all the stuff that came from that Guinness lineage that, I have to be honest, I had absolutely no idea went into that. So very, very good read, very incredible. Man, check that out. I don't think I gave the price on that, so forgive me. That is $11.97 on Amazon. So for about $26, you can get those first 2 books.